Thanks for joining us at the Business Growth Cafe, where each week we select from a menu of topics for a focused discussion with an industry expert to provide insights that can impact your business's growth. With your host, Angelo Ponzi.
Hi, I'm Angelo Ponzi, your host here at the Business Growth Cafe, and thank you for joining us. Do you know the story your business financials tell? Have you read them lately? Or are you puzzled by what those monthly numbers can tell when it comes to the health and the growth of your business? Well, today at the cafe, I have Stacy Benda, CEO of Apollonian Accounting and Business Services, to discuss the impact of not intimately knowing your financials and the impact it can have on your business growth. Stacy, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
I'm excited to have you here. And I'm looking forward to our conversation. I know I get asked all the time when I'm dealing with small to medium-sized businesses, or at least I ask them, you know, how healthy is your business? What story are your financials telling you? And they're going, I'm sorry, what? I just look at the numbers. I look at my profit and loss. I look at my balance sheet. But what's the story? And that's what I really want to kind of get into today a little bit with you and explore some of that. But before we start, why don't you take a few minutes, tell the audience about your company and about you.
Well, I am Stacy Benda with Apollonian Accounting and Business Services. We are a financial accounting and tax service provider for small, new launch, and mid-sized businesses. Here in South Orange County, we are a national brand. We can work remotely from anywhere actually in the world. I've personally experienced that myself being overseas, running a company with my team being here.
Okay. All right. And so how long have you been in business?
We've been actually in business for over 15 years.
Okay. All right. So you're not a newbie to this, growing a business yourself, which is exciting,
Yes.
right? So you're helping businesses grow and you're also growing your own business.
Correct.
So as an entrepreneur, one of the first questions I always ask is, you're trying to grow your business, what keeps you up at night?
Honestly, nothing.
Okay.
Because everything that needs to get done will be done in the morning
Okay.
or the next day. You need your 8 hours of sleep, and in order to have a healthy mind, you need to make sure that you're able to actually sleep unless you eat something that's not good for you or you drink too much caffeine.
Okay. All right. Well, that happens to me sometimes when I actually drink other things besides caffeine. But hey, that's just me as we kind of go along here. So really, I like your attitude, because I have kind of a similar attitude. If I can't change something that's bothering me at night and change the impact of it, I'm just going to sleep, because there's nothing I can do until, to your point, early in the morning. So I think that's great advice. I'm glad we have some similar philosophies of that. And you out there listening, please adopt this strategy. Quit staying awake all night long, worrying about something you can't have an impact on. So the second question I'm going to ask is, what is the best business advice you've ever received and or given?
Well, that's a good question. There's a lot of good business advice that's been given to me, but the utmost one that I go by is, in the process of building your business, it doesn't matter if you're a new launch and you have an idea, it's basically your dream, and you're setting a goal to implement, an actual reality, versus having a company that you've been established for over 15, 20 years. The best advice for me was just enjoy the moment. Take it all in. Think thoroughly and take a few steps back to evaluate where you're at, where your team is at, or where your vision, where you want your vision to go. With that, you can have a clearer thought. Making sure that you have a healthy balance of work to personal life is really important. And so when you take those few steps back, if you manage your time appropriately, most of the famous CEOs like Mark Cuban, Richard Branson, all of them say you should be able to get everything done within an 8-hour day.
Okay.
And if you can't, then you're not time managing properly.
Okay. Yeah, you got bigger issues.
Yeah.
And I think that that's important. You touched on work-life balance, and we all strive for that. We all talk about that, but it's very difficult. It's a challenge to get there. And somebody told me, and I don't remember I don't think I read it, but somebody said this to me, or maybe I was listening to a podcast. Maybe it was my own podcast. I can't quite remember. But somebody was saying that to achieve work-life balance, it takes you. right, in the middle. Only you can make the decision to do the things that have those impacts, to enjoy life, to spend time with your family, and when to invest. As an entrepreneur, and you and I know each other a little bit as we've in the last several months. And, when you're an entrepreneur, you tend to want to work all the time and do things. And it's hard sometimes to walk away, whether you're servicing a client or that one other thing, one other memo or email that you want to get out. And sometimes you just got to say tomorrow, right? It's time to get home, see the family, say hi to the kids, the dog, whatever it happens to be.
Well, I'll share with you this. When I did this the first go around and built the practice in the beginning before I sold off a big chunk and semi-retired back in 2009, I was working the 80 hours a week. My husband was bringing my kids to the office to have dinner with me.
No.
And it was almost a marriage fatality, along with the relationships with my kids. The most important thing about it this go around of relaunching the firm into a full-time status from coming out of semi-retirement, the most important thing is making sure that you set the appropriate boundaries with your clients, your vendors, and your staff and your team, along with yourself, to find that work balance. So for us in our firm, I know for a fact, majority of my employees have families. So I actually consider them their max full-time unless we have special reasons to work over, 35 hours a week top.
Okay.
So
nice.
they get home in time to be with their families.
Nice.
And that's a really important thing for me, is to making sure that they're taking care of themselves along with their families.
Well, that's a nice, I'll call it benefit, but that's actually a way part of your culture that you've established, and I think that's really important in any business.
Yes.
So now you mentioned that this is your second go around in this kind of a company, so I'm gonna label you a serial entrepreneur, right? But as your journey as an entrepreneur, if it was a book, what would the title be?
Wow, that's a big question. What would that be?
Okay. Now there's no dead air in radio, so
Yes,
if
I
you-
understand.
I can come back to it if you want to think about it.
Let me
a little
think
bit.
about that one for a second, because there's so many things that can go through my mind.
Okay.
But I think the book actually would be something more of how to continue to manage a work, family life, personal life balance with the appropriate time management tools.
Okay. That's a long ass title, but we'll shorten that for you.
We'll shorten it
But
up, but
I get it.
that's what you do. You're
That's
the
right.
marketing guy, so you figure out how to wrap that one.
All right. But I like that title. I like the premise of it, and I think that's really important. Again, part of this show is about advice and education, and hopefully those listening will take some of that into play. Now, this sounds a little elementary on my part, but why is it important for business owners to really stay on top of their financials and review their reports monthly? And one more comment to that. So I've worked with clients that by the time they actually get their books closed for the month, it's mid-month or even later into the next month, and so they're always behind. And so why is it important for them to really stay on top and get the numbers timely? And how can they use those to leverage thinking about their business in the future?
Well, it's really important for several reasons. One, any type of foul play, conspiracies that you may have within the organization, not to sound negative here, but if there's any type of situation that there was maybe a purchase that wasn't made on your behalf or for the company's behalf, your debit card got compromised, those things are limited on what you can dispute with your banks, and usually it's within 60 to 90 days. If you go beyond that period and you catch that there was like a $5,000 purchase on your debit card, for instance, and you go to dispute it 7 months later, the bank's going to say, I'm sorry, you should have came to us within our allowance window period. A couple of other reasons it's important to know, especially if you're a new launch and growth, is to understand what your costs are, also your cash flow, what type of revenue is, and looking at what your budget, comparing the budget to actuals to see if you're within your budgets, if you need to readjust your budgets and what you're forecasting. Maybe you're doing a really good year, so you can reallocate some of those dollars to maybe some other things to promote your business, such as marketing expenses. You can up that budget up a little bit.
I like
so there's
that.
a lot of different variables that come into play. If you're into any type of business, it also helps you with your pricing indexing, knowing where your margins are, because if your costs are going up and you can see that, you may have to make some alterations to your pricing, whether it's your hourly rate or your per unit rate, depending on what it is that your service or product provider. I see it as a beneficial as well for my clients to know exactly where they're at from their income to debt ratios, knowing that they're on target to meet their goals if they need to change their goals, because goals aren't set in stone, as you know. You're a marketing guy. We're always shifting our sales different directions. And maybe there's a revenue stream that's not doing too well, and all of a sudden it took a dip. Maybe it was our high revenue stream that was doing excellent, and all of a sudden we took a huge hit. We need to find out why. But what happens, it can be very detrimental if we don't catch that, right away, versus if we wait a year,
Sure.
where's that going to land us?
So, I mean, it's really about being more proactive and really changing, I'll call it the culture or the processes within the organization to
Correct.
ensure that these numbers are timely for all the various reasons you just said.
Yes.
That's really important. And again, if you're getting your figures 3 or 4 weeks after the month closed, you're in a reactionary mode, and that's the last thing you want to be doing is running your business that way.
That's one. Two, if you're the service provider providing the financial statements for your clients, it's a matter of also training your clients to, if they're not really understanding that, educating your client as to why, and or sometimes we have bad clients, and we want to be able to encourage them to change those bad behaviors to good behaviors so that we can help them grow their business in a positive way and meet their goals that they're seeking. So it's not always just about leverage. There's a lot of different variables that are coming into play, and or maybe they're strapped and they need assistance. So what can we do to help them smooth things out to make the process not so brutal for them?
Okay. There's so many different types of reports you can get. But if you could only pick for a business 2 or 3 or 4, what would be the essentials that every month you need to look at these versus all the other stuff is
Balance
important?
sheet.
Balance sheet,
Profit and loss.
profit and loss. Those are
Tells the story of your business
okay.
if they are done properly.
Okay. All right. So instead of worrying about all those different reports and things like that, those are the 2 key. You mentioned budgets, and I'm a big budget guy. I really like to look at budgets and see how we did compared to the budgets that we're doing. Do you find that I won't say specifically your clients, but in people that you've done work with over the years, I mean, do they take the time to really budget at the beginning of the year and really plan and then really monitor? And maybe, I know that's your job to make sure you're looking at actuals versus budgets, but that's kind of always a little bit of a loosey-goosey thing for me.
The mom and pop kind of businesses that are trying to turn into corporate, you start educating them on why those things are important. Those tools are important for them. Budgets, forecasting, projections. Because they want to grow and they want change. They want a culture change from the mom and pop to the more corporate so they can take it to the next level. Maybe it's because it's part of their exit strategy. Maybe it's part of, a succession planning. Maybe it's just overall, hey, this is where we're at. We've been stagnant, but I want to grow and I have a goal to get to by a certain time. Okay. Budgets also are great for not-for-profits have to have budgets, because they have to stay within a realm to know with their board, what they're approved for, knowing where their money's coming from and all of that. Those are really important stringents on the not-for-profit side. Okay. But for-profit side, I don't really see the smaller new launches. I see them when they're, coming out of the cove, they're writing their business plans, they want to do their pitch decks, they need the budget, they need to have projections. That's all part of the process. And that's training them to be better business people. Those that have been in business that don't have that, those are things that you can add as an add-on service to help them understand their business even more to meet their goals.
Okay. You've heard the statement, cash is king. We've said it. I say it. You say it. But for a small to medium-sized business, that is trying to grow, cash is important to run the business, but also profitability is important. Now, I've worked with companies, and even in my own a little bit, I say, okay, cash is more important than profitability. Maybe just because I'm selling a service, because without cash, there is no profit. It can be really profitable and, be tanked because you're not getting cash flow. So
Right.
is it a yin and a yang, a chicken and the egg kind of thing, or is it both?
It's both, because cash is king in all things. You can get various different types of discounts, or having the profitability. If you have the profitability, it should be reflecting either on your AR report, or it's going to be reflecting on your your bank account. It all depends on how you're set up. If you're a cash basis, accrual basis. But at the end of the day, if you're negative cash flow, but you have a ton of money on the AR side, then, that's a problem with collections. That's a flag. But if you have a big chunk of cash sitting in your bank account,
Yeah. Okay.
that's a good thing. But it's not a good thing, because you don't want it stagnant sitting there, because you're not going to collect the interest.
Okay. So, this thing is cruising along. I think we got about 6 or 7 or 8 minutes left, believe it or not.
Okay.
So I'm going to throw you a curveball. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh.
All right. As you look at businesses and think about businesses that you're dealing with in the marketplace, this is not a question I have, but it just popped into my head. So let's see where we go with this. Based on your experience, what's the biggest mistake a business can make right now, considering what's going on with the coronavirus and what's going on with the shutdowns and the way people are pulling back? Any thoughts on that? I'll give my thought. The first thing I've heard today was people are going to cut back on marketing. My advice is don't. The last thing you want to do is disappear from the marketplace, because this will pass. And if your competitors continue to invest and have a presence and awareness, and even if they're just delivering comfort, when we come out of it, they're going to be the only ones that new consumers are going to remember. That's my advice from a marketing standpoint and an overall. What about from just a general business operations and investment into the business?
Well, I think every business owner needs to educate themselves with the CDC. Log in your email to their website so you get real live updates. Educate yourself. Don't go by the media. Don't panic. Don't overreact. Don't go buy too much toilet paper. There was somebody that bought 568 cases versus 568 packages. Had a truck show up with that. That would have been a hoot to see. But you have to realize that the coronavirus is just here and there, like the bird flu. Influenza A, actually, there's more deaths with that. You've got Lassa fever that's in Nigeria that's killing. That's even worse than the coronavirus. And I'm not trying to downplay the coronavirus. Don't get me wrong, because it does affect certain people.
So back to the business aspect.
From the business aspect is run your business as if it is the same every day. Don't overreact. The virus is a virus. You're in an area here in Orange County. Yes, you could be exposed to it. You don't have control over that, but you still have to live each day as if it's just the same routine without being in fear. If you live in fear, then you're really not going to get anything accomplished, and you will sink.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. This popped into my head as we're talking today, of course, listening to the news and all that. And I do see people panicking. I've been to Target and seeing completely empty shelves and bare shelves. It's crazy to me, but I get it. But from a business standpoint, I've been asked several times today about, as a marketer, what would I do and what would I recommend?
And that's why I say just go to work and just keep doing what you're doing, because no matter what, you don't have control over these situations. And you can't live yourself in fear. If you live in fear, you'll never get anything accomplished.
Okay. So let me segue. Thank you for that. It wasn't too much of a curveball, was it?
No.
It was a little knuckleball. You hit it out of the park.
Well, I mean, look at Italy right now.
Yeah, I
They're
know.
completely shut down.
I know.
And
it's
my
crazy.
heart hurts.
I know, and you have family there. Actually, I was speaking to my Italian relatives
Yeah.
this morning and making sure they're all okay, and they're in southern Italy and they're doing fine. But
Yeah.
you know, it's having an impact on all of them.
Our oldest son serves in the U.S. Air Force, and he's stationed up in the northern region. And let me tell you, it's not easy for them right now.
Yeah, I bet. I bet.
Yeah.
Anyway, my prayers go out to all of them and everybody around the world. So I know we're coming down to an end, and one of the things I saw on your website is you work with a lot of verticals.
Mm-hmm.
And so from construction and entertainment and nonprofits, and so accounting, I would say not, right? So as you get into the different verticals, my assumption is there's nuances within each one of those verticals, construction industry versus entertainment. So how do you get yourself up to speed when it comes to bringing on a new company in a new vertical?
Well, that's a good question. We have actually a new vertical that we're introduced to that we're working in the hospitality space.
Okay, so brand new.
We've actually are now probably on the national market for our brand, on our way there with various different big national brands, affiliations. And coming into that niche, accounting's accounting. You can cost anything. It's actually understanding the process. It's all very similar. Construction's a little different. It has its own little tweaks like anything else. But like in the hospitality lane or in the entertainment industry or the restaurant business, it comes with not only just the experience, but it's just listening. There's a difference between hearing people when they speak and listening to people when they speak. And you will learn a whole lot more when you let people when you listen and let them speak.
Okay.
And that's how we actually come into play. But with all the verticals that we work into, a lot of it is really just because of the hands-on experience that our firm has between our staff and myself and the different experiences that we add value to the company, that we are able to actually figure those out pretty quickly.
Okay.
And we find other verticals that are very similar to those.
Okay.
And
as a
then-
way to grow.
As a way to grow.
Okay. So this is going to be my final question. I'm getting three fingers or two fingers over there. So give me advice to my listeners. Two tips, two tricks, two tips, two pieces of guidance when it comes to thinking about their financials.
Well, when you come to your financials, make sure that one, you have a quality accountant. That's really important. That's competent, that understands and reconciles the financial statements from the balance sheet through the profit and loss, completely thoroughly against all statements, any transactional records. Second advice I give everybody is to use those as tools to leverage and benchmark and platform yourself so that you have adequate pricing, profitability, and understanding of your business. And if you don't, there's no such thing as a dumb question. Always ask questions so you can always grow to learn.
Okay. Well, Stacy, thank you so much. This has been educational, and I'm sure my audience is going to really benefit it. Did you have a good time?
I did.
All right. So, no reason to be nervous, right? We had a good,
No.
nice conversation.
I'm just waiting for the drink to show up.
Yeah, I know. You know what? I've had some drinking show. Oh, we got a lot of alcohol over here with Paul. Next time, we'll have you back on, and we'll do some drinking. Maybe we'll do a drinking show.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell the listeners how they can contact you, what your website is, and all that good stuff.
Well, you can reach us at our phone number is 949-623-8789. You can also visit us at our website, which is www.apollonianaccounting.com. And just give us a call or shoot us an email through our website, and we will be more than glad to accommodate and answer any questions that you may have. And we look forward to hearing from anybody from your show.
Okay, let's go back to the website one more time. Spell it out.
Apollonianaccounting.com. APOLLONIAN accounting.com.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you again so much, and thank you for listening to the show. You can find out more about me, read my blogs, or view my show videos, or sign up to receive future information at theponzigroup.com, or certainly connect with me on LinkedIn. And if your business is ready for growth and you need a CMO, but you're not quite ready for a full-time person yet, connect with me. I'd welcome the opportunity to explore the benefits of using a fractional CMO. And lastly, please subscribe to this show. And if you're already a subscriber, I encourage you to tell others about it so they can enjoy this content, like great content like we had today, and many other shows at thebusinessgrowthcafe.com or on my website, or on any major podcast platform that you can get around the world. You know, I got people in Saudi Arabia, England, Indonesia, Australia. Come on, folks. All over the world, I'm getting downloads, and I'd like to make sure that your friends and family and your business associates can benefit from this too. Join me next week for lunch at the Business Growth Cafe. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's discussion at the Business Growth Cafe with your host, Angelo Ponzi. Take a moment to subscribe to this podcast and visit our website at www.businessgrowthcafe.com. Read Angelo Ponzi's blogs at www.theponzigroup.com.